what would Mahler and his friends what is it that they have seen in terms of this culture is in a crisis? Why did they thought it is in a crisis? Carl?
The two terms that come up quite a lot when one talks about Vienna and crisis around 1900, and they have already been mentioned actually here as well. One of them is the vacuum of values, basically, the reception of Nietzsche. Nietzsche claimed God is dead. He was not the first one, but he really meant it in a sense, and it meant that there are no values at all, basically. Any kind of normative kind of statement we want to make is not there. And the second aspect of this crisis is that what Krauss called Vienna as a laboratory for the destruction of the world. It was this, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire was this multi-cultural state, many different ethnic groups, and the unity came under pressure around 1900. There were riots. Vienna had elected a few times an anti-Semitic mayor who finally, by the emperor, was appointed in 1897, accidentally the same year that Mahler was appointed as head of the state opera. So those two things, basically, a philosophical kind of crisis, what is value, how can we kind of think of value after Nietzsche, and what's going on in the streets, how do we lack unity, or how do we kind of splinter up, and that eventually would kind of turn into World War I, of course.
I'm interested to know, Mahler, you spoke about Mahler's faith in humanistic values. Is this whole notion of values, the death of God, etc., 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 did Mahler consider this as a key element of his sense of crisis? I still want to know his sense of crisis. Where did it came from? What is it that he saw? Iván.
I think everybody had that in that time. It was in the air completely that this is the end of the world and one needs a new world. If you look around, what happened in this 20-year short period, people broke away from one thing and started something new. Schoenberg decided no more tonality and write completely different music. Picasso started to express himself in a like black and white, completely different language. I mean, there were everywhere people decided that this is the end of the world, this is the Untergang des Abendlandes, and start a new world. Now, why that was, that is a very difficult question. I don't know. I really I don't know. But I think everybody had that feeling. And it's true that I think Mahler also felt it, but he was very much in love with the old one. He wasn't able to break away from it like Schoenberg did, or like the drastic innovators. He was like in the Lied von der Erde, where he says, it's like saying goodbye to this beautiful world. This feeling of saying goodbye and loving it is very much his intuition. I think Mahler felt the change but couldn't make the step like what the next generation did.
Me? I don't know. I come from a completely different side, actually, having lived with two composers, Schoenberg and Nono. And I think that at least the ones I knew had this incredible sensitivity and capacity for feeling what was going on in the world and what was going on in their lives, and transmitting this in their music. And I think that they have the people like that, creative people like that, have such an intensive way of understanding what is going on in the world, based on what they know and what they feel and what is happening to them, but what is happening also to others, that we certainly cannot enter into their heads. And then people are always asking me, what would your husband have said if he knew Italy today with Berlusconi? What would your father think of electronic music and that sort of thing? And I always refused to do that because these people were so creative and so they had such antennas. You say that? We can't really, I mean, most of us, at least certainly not I, can say what would they have thought or why did they do a certain thing. We can surmise, we can guess at certain things because we know of certain facts out of their lives. We know of the deaths in Mahler's family that obviously had a very great influence on him. We also know that he grew up in a shtetl and therefore probably knew about the different pogroms that had been before, so he didn't have to be a prophet for the future because he already knew what had happened in the past. And all of these things form the emotional, I think, the emotional and the sensitivity of the person. And this comes out in the music, but when I listen to the music, I'm very different from all of you because I don't know very much about why and what it's supposed to mean and all those things. And to me, I perceive the music as music. And I don't think about whether it's one thing or no. A funeral march, I can tell that it's a funeral march. But I think there are very many different ways also of listening to music and how different people perceive it.
Let's go back to that in 10 minutes. But just to wrap it up. Okay, I can accept your argument. We cannot go into their heads, and so what is basically we can say about what they would say now. But simply based.
I have an
sorry.
idea.
Oh, okay.
Somehow I have an idea how Mahler may react to this.
Tell us.
I mean, I may be wrong, but because look, we know that he conducted in Vienna a lot of Wagner performances. He was like the Wagner, ambassador, and Wagner. And we also know that the young Adolf Hitler was in the audience. Now imagine this scene. Gustav Mahler does his best to fight for Wagner. There is an idiot young man in the audience who somehow gets affected by this music, and then we know what he did later with. It's such a crazy idea that actually Mahler injected the love of Wagner into Hitler. I mean, this is what happened. Now, let's imagine that what you say, Mahler would sit with us and we would tell him, why did you do this? I mean, what on earth did you have in mind, make this German nationalist Wagner's music such a grand thing and hypnotize people to love it? Look what Hitler did. And I think Mahler may react, say, this is exactly what I composed in my music. This controversy and this fight and this paradox and this craziness. That is Mahler's music.